Instagram page.
That one.
Yeah, so we were sharing pictures of those being made as we were doing it, sort of not live, but every now and again we'll just post an update picture on Instagram.
Right.
The problem with that was that before we even had a chance to finish our design that we had come up with, there was a jeweler that had obviously entered the design into CAD and had printed out a copy and had them all made and was proudly
Wow.
displaying his Instagram page before we had
Wow.
a chance to even finish up our own design. So that taught us a little bit of a lesson to maybe not share.
Surprising.
And that didn't feel so great to see a design that we already had, that we still had many hundreds of hours left to finish, to already
Yeah.
see them finished on somebody else's page didn't feel so great at the time. I mean, they were quite different because they were CAD and printed. They didn't quite have the same volume, and the gemstone setting wasn't so great, and he had used different colors and things like that. But yeah, that time it didn't feel so great.
That happens, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I love inspiring people. I mean, if people want
Yeah.
to be inspired by
Yeah.
using great colors or
Yeah.
shapes or things like that, I think that's really good. I mean, because jewelry has such a rich history,
Yeah.
if you're a real jewelry nerd and you see any design with enough time and a big enough library, you can probably trace back to seeing something that was sort of a little bit similar before.
Yeah.
So yeah, we try not to get too precious, but because our designs are quite personal, it can sting sometimes a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So what's the idea come from? For me, this one is like reminding me of Russian dancer kind of thing,
Yeah,
you know.
actually, they got the nickname flamingo
Yeah.
when as they were being made. So the base idea of these came from David, and then we bounced it backwards and forwards. For me, I love, again, adding interest. So you'll see in this, you've got the step cut, bold, crisp faceting of the amethysts in the middle, which are
Yeah.
sort of very bold step mirror facets. And
Wow.
then you've the pave, which is very sparkly and
Yeah.
fuzzy and
Yeah.
brilliant. There's a different texture again, very busy. Then and they're both reflecting light. Then you've got the Sleeping Beauty turquoise, which almost sort of absorbs
Oh.
light, and it has no faceting at all. And then the spinels on top were just the prettiest little colour to sort of fit against the air and give a nice transition up onto the air. So this one, I think the design almost came from wanting to use different textures and
Yeah.
different colours, and that built the design almost.
Yeah. That is
Yeah, and that's
astonishing.
a game that I had played around with a lot, sort of repeating in the sketchbook. Probably won't be able to find it now, but they tend to sort of just. I mean, that's sort of an older design, similar again. So I mean, just scribbles, and that's obviously a more rougher scribble up there. They
Yeah.
just sort of develop and unfold in the sketchbook, being repeated and repeated until they finally get to a stage where they need to come out of the sketchbook and be made. I mean, that's sort of, again, not quite
Yeah.
it, but similar
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
Perfect.
Just draw and draw and draw until something
Yeah.
sticks.
Do you have in mind of using maybe animal world, you know, kind of thing? Do you think of doing some animals, you know?
Yeah. When I was younger, I used to love making animal jewels. Lots
Yeah.
of, I mean, we did monkeys and seahorses and flies and lots of goldfish and lots and lots of animals. I haven't done anything so much recently. We've tended to sort of go a little bit more stylized rather than literal.
Yeah.
And with florals, it's a lot easier to sort of.
It is.
I mean, earrings that are on the background sort of have a floral sort of look about them. So yeah, not so much. I mean, apart from the little miniature works that I do, I quite often little portrait paintings of animals and then set those within a jeweled frame.
Yeah.
I like doing those too.
So, you know the ring just behind you on your background. So, why this particular one on the wall?
That was one of the first pieces that
Yeah.
I made. So this what we're doing now came about because my father's always been in jewellery and he's had his own store.
Yeah.
And when he retired a little bit early, and my brother and I both didn't really want to take over the store. We didn't
Yeah.
like the retail side of things so much. We're
Yeah.
more both workshop people. So
Yeah.
when he retired, it must be about 5 years ago now. That's when my brother and I started Dave and Michael.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the first pieces that we made. So that's why it's on the wall, because it was what we had made at the time.
And also kind of, you know, that was your...
Nice looking ring too.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. It's not nice. It's astonishing, astounding. I can carry on, you know, it's just so beautiful.
But in the pave around the central ruby, it's a real cool collection of different cuts of diamonds. So there's rose cuts, there's single cuts, there's old mine cuts, and there's a few brilliant cuts too, I think. So although they were all white round diamonds, it just had this really great textural looking feel to the pave. It was fun.
Perfect.
This is what I was saying about where I like to use animals nowadays.
The eyes. Yes.
It's a little cat's eye painting in there, and I'll make a little jeweled frame for it. That's a little miniature painting painted on vellum and just backed in an antique card. I'll cut it out and build a frame for it.
Yeah.
So that's probably the closest I get to having animals these days in jewellery.
I don't have the photo, but you know, you did have this pond jewellery, and
so that's something I did, I think, not last year, but the year before. I made the first pond, and that came from actually finding the aquamarine. I think I've got the original design for that here. So that design came finding the central aquamarine, and it was a very large portrait cut aquamarine, about 17 carats, and it was 4 millimeters thick. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, well, that would be great to paint a little koi fish behind and turn it into a pond. So then the pond had like a little cobblestone edge, green pave thing, and that actually sold at Sotheby's in New York last year. So they promoted that quite heavily, and they found, I'm told, a really lovely owner in New York, which is always nice when the pieces go to a good home. And because I enjoyed making that one so much, I actually, on my next trip to New York, I was lucky enough to see an amazing Lalique piece of jewellery. And Lalique had built a series of pieces, floral jewels again, that had a personality to them. I think there was 3 or 4 pieces in the series, each one unique, and it was to signify a relationship, basically. So the first brooch, the 2 floral elements were very separate from each other, and almost one was pushing away the other. And then the 2 were sort of closer together, like they were embraced in courtship almost. And then I think the next one, the floral elements were looking like totally spent, like they just had a moment of passion. And I just love this idea of telling a story through a series of individual jewels that on their own each looked great, but had a narrative running through. So then, because I had enjoyed making that first koi pond so well, and it was a very bright, summery looking koi pond, I thought, well, I'd like to make a winter koi pond. And that's actually what I'm working on now, the winter pond. I have been collecting and cutting the stones for it. And rather than the aquamarine this time to give a frozen over pond look,
Right.
to track down a very included piece of rock crystal and had that cut in the same sort of portrait cut. But when you look through it, it has all these icy looking inclusions in the stone.
Yeah.
That just make it look frozen. And that's the design so far come up with.
Oh,
So you'll look
that
through it, all of these
one word.
inclusions looks like
Amazing.
frozen over. And then I've carved this out of a pure white opal. Actually, I've got that here. Carving some opal so that it's pure white, so it looks like mounds of snow. And then rather than Zabarite pave, I'm going to do diamond pave, so it looks like just little Zabarite, so it looks like little blades of grass coming through. So basically, just another story. And
so
then,
how long do you think that one will take?
that one will probably be about, because I'm carving a lot of the opal and pieces for it. There's a lot of work going into it, which I'm just loving. Actually, I've got that's the
Just a second, Michael. One of followers is saying, could we close the comments so we could get better look, please? I'm trying to close the comments. So here we go. So you want to see your work better.
That's the little piece of mother of pearl again from Paspali that I cut out and shaped to the correct size. I don't know if you're seeing that.